many names of God, many names of Spirit, but there really is only one. There's one energy. Class last night, we talked about the Big Bang, where it all began with the word, if you will, of Spirit. Let there be light in the candle, in each of us. Let there be light. Let there be love. Let there be wisdom and grace. Let there be all this. And so it is. It is that. That is what we are of. Each of us are of that beginning moment. Probably more than we can imagine before that, even if there could be a before, who knows? Right now, what I know is that I am of that love. I am of that wisdom and grace. Each of us is of that. We are made of it. We have it within us. It's not out there somewhere. I don't have to call for it to come to me because it's already here. And when I choose to open to that wisdom that says, you are that, what's true of Spirit is true of you at all times. When I choose to hear that and remember that, something comes down, my shoulders come down out of my ears, and I celebrate what is good in my life. I know what in this moment, this love that we hold with each other, more of this. I know more and more and more of this. More of this wisdom, more of this grace. More of the prosperity, the overflowingness of good is mine because I open to it. I don't have to know how it shows up. I just know it does. And I feel it all the way through me. Past that static that says, yeah, but what about? No, past that. Feeling it all the way in me. Feeling that. Allowing it to flow up and out and into my life. I am so grateful to know this. I am so grateful to feel this. I am so grateful for this wholeness I sense that is me. That is each of us. So I let my word go today, echoing into the future, knowing the law's got it. Spirit's got it. It's under construction. Oh, it's done, and so it is. So please take a couple of minutes in quiet contemplation. How many people really thought that when I said that? To the best of your ability, contemplate the joy of this moment. And we will be brought back in more joy with a celebratory music. Thank you.
We're working this whole year on a theme called a grand rising. And this grand rising is happening out there, right? Nope, it's happening in here. It's happening as we, as the song says, take away the veil. As we take away the forgetting of who we really are and start to remember that we create a grand rising. And it shows up out there because it's happening here first. And so we're here to do that. So that's our overall theme. This month we're working on a theme of giant gentleness, giant powerfulness, with the idea that as we relax, as we become gentle, we release the real authentic power, which is not power over. That's really control rather than power. but the real power, the ability to create, the ability to be, the ability to express the divine nature that each of us is. So that's our monthly theme. And then, of course, today we're looking at the other in love. Last week we explored the self in love. We explored the adoration of the infinite within us and the adoration of the infinite for itself as us. Got that? You adore yourself, the infinite adores you. Okay?
What happens if you don't adore yourself?
It doesn't matter. The infinite still adores you. If you remember, we had a practice last week, a spiritual practice, to wake up and look in the mirror and say, I adore you, to yourself. And so if you did that, you may have felt a little bit of a shift. I know I did. So we are, as we affirmed at the start of the service, immersed in infinite love here and now. We are immersed in infinite love here and now. And that doesn't mean that I am and you're not. It doesn't mean that you're immersed in infinite love and I'm not. It means that we are. There is only this love, as the song said. There is only this infinite love. So that I and this appearance of the other are simply aspects of the oneness immersed in love. So we're always in love. Got that? And I don't mean the romantic feeling of, oh, I'm in love. No, I mean we're always in this field, this soup, this whatever you want to call it, of infinite love. We're always there. We forget it, we remember it, we're always there. Which means in reality, we are love. Looking at love, appearing as reflections of ourselves within the field of infinite love. Got that? I am love, whether I remember it or forget it, looking at a reflection of love, and if I forget it, I don't see it, right? Looking back at me as love. Because, of course, we do forget. That was my whole talk, by the way. That was the whole thing right there, was if you really get it, we're infinite love, looking at infinite love, that's it. But we forget. I forget. I don't know about you. Okay. Well, at least one other person said, yeah, they do too. Because that's the nature of the game in which we've decided to play ourselves here on this planet. So we can forget who we are and then experience the joy of reawakening and remembering who and what we all are, just as the earth every year forgets what its bright liveliness and aliveness every winter. It's called winter, and it pretends to be dead, and it looks dead, and then all of a sudden, spring comes, and it spreads pollen so we can all get allergies, and flowers can grow, and the universe does a dance. The earth does a dance, yes? It appears over and over and over again, and guess what? So are we. We're playing the same game. We forget that we're in love so that we can remember that we're in love, because it's a lot of fun to remember, yes? Yes. So just as last week we were called to remember ourselves within and as this field of infinite love, we're called this week to remember each other as also in this field of infinite love, being unique expressions within this field of infinite love. And some of us are seeing and being this more directly, while others may be in the testing phase, which many of us go through, called, will you still love me if I do this, say that, fill in the blank? Will we still love that baby if when we call for silence, she goes, I know? Yes, we will. How many of you really get that embodied, I know? It was beautiful. It was perfect. So we see children do this, and then we see couples try to do this with each other when they're trying to figure out, do you really love me? They'll say things like, if you really loved me, you would. Some of you are laughing because you know. What if we didn't have to test each other's love? What if we just accepted that we are loved? So how do we experience and express love in this dance with what and who we call the other? The first step is to remember that we're all one. The first step is to remember that that person in front of me that I perceive as another, the other, isn't really. And that we're both always immersed in this field of infinite love. Always immersed in this field of infinite love. So if I'm not experiencing infinite love at the moment, it's not infinite love's problem, is it? It's not infinite love's fault. I'm not trying to assign fault. But it might be that I need to shift my perception a little bit. To remember, oh, wait, time out. I am immersed in infinite love and there's only one of us. What if we did that anytime we were in a disturbed place? So that's the first step, to remember we're one, immersed in this field of infinite love. And the second step is to remember that we all forget this. Yes? Miguel Ruiz in the Four Agreements observes that all the sadness and drama we have experienced in our lives boils down to two things. It's due to making assumptions and taking things personally. All those of you who've read the Four Agreements know this. Making assumptions and taking things personally. I never do this, except maybe last week. When I had a little experience, I posted something on my Facebook page that was intended as a call to a higher level of interaction with each other. And another minister commented that he didn't know exactly what I was talking about, and then went on a rant of what I must be talking about, what I must be meaning, and then eventually hauled out the P word to throw it at me. Privileged. You're privileged. For the viewpoint that he was assigning to me. He's not God. He's not infinite love. Not him. And I watched as I and my comment became a movie screen so that this person could project the attitudes that they were upset about and then rail against them. That was the assumptions part. And I, being so enlightened, and so above all this, and so great, and so wonderful, and in tune with the infinite, took it all personally. And felt hurt and angry. And of course, this experience triggered, initially unconsciously, previous memories of feeling misunderstood and attacked, which made it feel more personal. Anybody relate to anything like this? Anybody else ever done anything? Okay, good, thank you. Whew. And it took a few minutes. Okay, a few days. A lot of journaling, a lot of prayer, a good prayer session with my prayer partner. Before I could unhook, mostly, my triggered emotions from this incident, and to remember that I've seen him, do similar things to others before, so it wasn't personal, it's just how he relates to the world. And then, God, I hate this part, to recognize myself within him, and remember that it wasn't all that long ago that I got caught up in my own angry young man rants of righteousness, and I know the better way. And then he's about the same age as I was when I was really locked up into that consciousness. Don't you hate it when you see yourself in that other person? The person you want to hate or be angry with or make wrong? Don't you hate that? Anybody? Mark Nepo talks about the need to bring our heads below our hearts, to practice humility, with our thinking subordinate to true feelings, to our authentic feelings, and our will subordinate to a higher way of being, a higher way of seeing. And I sure hope that guy gets that. But in truth, I'm only responsible for my life, and I sure hope I get that. Our assumptions, our projections of our own thoughts and feelings onto others is a huge barrier to experiencing the flow of infinite love between us. Often we assume we know what the other is saying, thinking, feeling. That's the I know that's from the intellect rather than the soul. Has anybody besides me ever done that? Yeah, I know what you're thinking. only to find out later on that, no, I didn't. We assume we know that based on our interpretations, based on our assumptions, and instead of saying, I don't know what you mean, could you tell me a little bit more? We're so trained to look for differences, to take stands and positions, with a high need to just know, without asking. You don't have to check in with anybody. Hey, I'm intelligent, I know. We're trained to be and conditioned to be right, without considering there might be multiple right answers and viewpoints, and to believe that everyone must see the world as we do. Yes? They should, yes. You know, that's where I get particularly uncomfortable, I'll just say that, with some of the fundamentalist Christians who, because they believe that things are a certain way, everybody must do it their way. If they believe homosexuality is a sin, rather than just saying, I'm not going to have a homosexual relationship, it's, you're not going to have a homosexual relationship, et cetera, et cetera. And so we take, and we all do this individually and collectively. You should all see it my way. But I don't have to see it your way. And that gets us into trouble, yes? And if people don't see it, I didn't hear that. Okay. Doesn't get you into trouble. If people don't see the world the way that we think they should, then we feel hurt, angry, or scared. We take it very personally because, after all, we are each single-handedly responsible for saving the world, yes? And the only way to save the world is if we get everybody all thinking the same way we do, because our way is what? The right way. Yep. We all know this. And we especially have to save the world from people like them, the other. You know, someone recently posted a photograph of a big traffic jam in Seattle, and they captioned it, "The planet won't survive." Someone else wisely commented on that, "The planet will survive, even if the humans don't." Higher perspective. See, it's helpful to maintain perspective and balance when dealing with the other. That's the one who you live with, or who you're friends with, or who are your parents or your children. That's the one you live next door to. That's the one you see on the news. That's the other. Remembering that in truth there is no other. So it's helpful to maintain that perspective and to remember that we believe we're looking through a clear lens at objective reality, when in real reality, we are usually looking through a very filtered lens with obstruction spots into a mirror of anything but objective reality. I know a number of you, like me, have had cataract surgery. And you have cataracts and you have one eye taken care of, and they put in a new lens, and suddenly you're looking at this bright, clear world out of one eye, and you notice that the other eye is seeing this yellowed, filtered world, and you sit there and go, oh my God, that was what I perceived as reality. And it took getting it replaced before I could see that, no, there's some brightness that I was missing. We all get locked up into that. We all get into that, this is my normal life. I remember I lived in LA for 5 years, and I moved out, and I came back to pick up my fiance. We were going to go up, and we were moving up north to the Bay Area and going to get married there. And as I drove back into LA, where I'd lived for 5 years, I was driving down what they call the Grapevine, big, long, winding freeway there, part of I-5. My eyes began to water, my nose began to run, my throat began to clog up, and it was like, oh my God, this is the soup that I lived in for 5 years of pollution. But guess what? I get used to it, yes? We all get used to it. We think it's the normal. So we look through these filters. I've got Sherry all choked up here. We look through these filters thinking that they're real. So it takes powerful gentleness and powerful humility to step back and consider that I could be wrong. Or that my way is just one of many ways of viewing life. Breathing. There is no one way to God. There is no one way to living life. When we lose our perspective and get caught up in my way, then we tend to fall into one of the greatest relationship killers of all, judgment. And it's judgment often based on comparison, comparing myself to others, then judging either myself or others. Either I'm doing it wrong, they're doing it wrong. My life isn't as good, their life isn't as good. It's a fast track to misery, and it's often based upon illusions about others. How many times we thought that somebody we thought really had it all together didn't? And it's often based on the illusion of the life we should be living. How many of us have, at least at some point in our lives, had the life that I should be living? I should be doing this. I should be that. I'm a certain age, therefore I should be married. You know, you have the favorite aunt who asks, when are you going to get married? When are you going to have kids? You know, all the life that we should be. I should have a certain job that makes a certain amount of money. I should be the perfect minister. I should never have gotten upset with that person because I should be perfect. Yes? Anybody relate? You should relate. Thank you, Buffy. So rather than judging whether we're living a right or wrong life, we can ask, am I living a life that feels right and authentic to me? Take a breath. See, we don't have to conform to somebody else's ideas or demands of how our life should be so they'll feel happy, which they probably won't anyways, because if they're unhappy, they're just unhappy. They forgot. The question is, does my life make me truly and authentically happy? Does it do no harm to anyone? And upsetting others is not the same as actually harming somebody. Just because somebody doesn't like your life is not the same as harming them. Does my life enhance the overall expression of life, capital L life itself? And when you can say yes to that, you'll find that you won't have to go searching for others, they'll find you. You'll find your tribe, your group of others who will love and value you for who you are. Look around this room, look around the YouTube page in the Zoom room. You have found a tribe, yes? Okay. Do you have to be perfect? Yes, you do. You have to give this much money, you have to take this many classes, you have to. No, you don't. This is a place where we love. You'll find a group, a tribe that will love you and value you for who you are, and you will feel safer in loving and valuing them for who you are, who they are. People will disapprove of you. Hello? Yes? No matter who you are, no matter what you're doing, people will disapprove of you. So what? Not because you are doing anything wrong, but because they are looking through a filtered, distorted lens at a mirror that they don't like, and they can't deal with it yet because they've forgotten. So don't take it personally. You know, when somebody expresses disapproval of me, I always ask myself, is there any truth to this? I listen, I take whatever I need to, and I discard the rest when I'm in my healthy adult self, yes. Otherwise, I get mad and all that stuff. We all feel hurt in relationships. The question is, what do we do next? What do we do after that? Do we let someone else's pain-based actions drag us down? Or, without being a doormat, do we live as love in a world of love, which is our vision? So this week, for your spiritual practice, I'm going to invite you to do one thing, and that is pay attention to your relationships. Just notice them. Just pay attention to your relationship. Are they mostly rewarding and joyful? All relationships, especially those close, intimate relationships, have some periods of tedium and boredom and frustration in them, yes? Okay? Buffy says no. We get into who's going to take out the trash, who's going to clean the bathroom, who's going to do the shopping and clean up the breakfast dishes and all that stuff. It's not always, the joy, it's not the Hallmark show that we always see, right? Every moment of every day. But what is the overall tone of those relationships? What are you giving in your relationships also? So oftentimes we look in a relationship and go, well, they're not. Am I? What am I giving? Am I giving love and joy? Loving ourselves is loving others. Loving others is loving ourselves, because there's only one. Am I letting love out, and am I letting love in? So this week, pay attention to your relationships. Notice if you're making assumptions. Notice if you're taking things personally and or judging. And in the immortal words of Bob Newhart from a wonderful skit, stop it! Or more correctly, let it go. Let those assumptions, let that go. I want to close with a quote from Ernest Holmes. And he says, ultimately, we shall see that the universe rests on the shoulders of love. I'm sorry, I forgot one thing. Will you do that spiritual practice this week? Will you pay attention to your relationships? Yes. Great. You should. You'll make me happy if you do. No. Ultimately, we shall see that the universe rests on the shoulders of love. That's a capital L, love. That God is love, and that all the errors of humans are the result of ignorance of our own true nature. An evolved soul judges no one, condemns no one, but realizes that all are on the road of experience, seeking the same goal, and that each must ultimately find their home. That's the good news of our teaching. We'll all get there, wherever that there is. We all will get to that point where we are experiencing this love, being it, giving it, receiving it. So we have an affirmation. Say it with me. All of my relationships are love-informed. One more time. All of my relationships are love-informed. How many of your relationships? All of my relationships. Thank you very much.